Hello, this is James Lockridge, and appreciate this opportunity to share with you for a few moments. Many years ago, when I was only about 11 or 12 years old, I guess, I saw one of our missionary ladies in the Philippine Islands do a sermon in chalk, and I thought it was cool. You know how kids will look at things and have an opinion about it, but I guess it was just kind of filed away back in the back of my mind. Then later on, as a college student, I began to sense God speaking to my heart that the chalk ministry might be something that He would want me to do, that He might want to me to share the gospel through this medium of chalk art and music. And I found myself doodling on paper, and when I found a chalkboard, trying to draw a picture, but I continually said, Lord, I don't know how to do this stuff. I'm not an artist. My brother's a good artist. My grandma was a good artist, but not me. I can't draw stick figures without getting the arms coming out where their ears ought to be or whatever, you know. And so I kind of argued with God, if you please. Can you imagine doing that? But I did for many years. And then I got married, and I told my wife one day, I said, I really feel like God wants me to draw pictures in chalk. And she said, well, if God's telling you to do it, you better get on the stick and do it. And I said, but it costs money, and we don't, we're a young married couple. We don't have money to just throw away or whatever. And she said, if God's telling you to do it, He'll take care of the finances and all the rest of it. And so we began to look for materials. I sought out some books that might show me how to do this stuff, or the chalks and the paper, and I didn't have an easel, and so I had to build my own easel. And then I finally took another step, and I said to my pastor, some night when the quartet's not, I was singing with a group, and some night when we're not going to be gone, I'd like to do a sermon in chalk for the church. And he said to me, great. And I said, no, you don't understand. Listen to the audacity of this. I'm going to draw a picture in chalk, or I want to draw a picture in chalk to prove to God that He got the wrong Lockridge. Now, can you imagine? He said, did God tell you to do it? And I said, well, as I understand His voice in my heart, yes. And he said, then that's good enough for me. So the day arrived. I had built an easel, the custodian helped me set it up, and we had to tie it with ropes into the choir loft because it was top heavy when I put the lighting hood on and everything. And that was the first time I'd really set it up. And I'd never even drawn a picture that night. I had taken one sheet of paper because it was so expensive and hard to find. I took one sheet of paper and cut it into fourths and kind of practiced so I wouldn't use so much chalk either on those fourths. So I'd just drawn a quarter-size picture. I'd made my music background tape and had everything ready to go, thinking maybe 30 or 40 people would show up in our little church there in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and they'd watch me and come to the same conclusion that I had come to, that God had the wrong Lockridge, and they'd say, bless his heart, you know how we Southerners do. That'd be it. We came out of the prayer room that night into the sanctuary. It sat about 233 people. They had to put chairs in the center aisle, and then there were people standing from about halfway back all the way around the back of the sanctuary to about halfway down the other side. Probably about 250 people at least there that night. Mostly I didn't know from other churches and whatnot that had come together, because my pastor, with faith in God, had bought ad in a paper saying, hour of power, chalk artist James Lockridge, come see. And they did. And I'm thinking, what have you done to me, Pastor? And he just kind of chuckled. And we surrendered the service to God, and I drew my picture, got to the conclusion of the picture, and the last song's about ready to start, and I flipped on the black lights, and a skyline of heaven appeared in the clouds, and there was this unified gasp from the congregation. And I thought, wow, it doesn't look too bad. At least I didn't bomb out entirely. But the best part of that night was when I gave the invitation. The altar was full. There was probably 20 or 30 people at least on their knees, tears on many eyes. And I knew I had wrestled with God for some 5 years over this calling that he had placed upon my heart, my life, and I'd argued that I couldn't when he said, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. Don't you remember that verse? Philippians 4:13. And so I started. I could have done it for 5 years, but at least I got started. And I'm so grateful for God's patience and his mercy that he didn't say, hey, you disobedient thing, I'm going to just disown you. Instead, he gave me that continued call, that continued encouragement from my wife and from my pastor. And now today I've had the privilege of drawing in many different countries and sharing the good news through art. Still don't think I'm very good at it, but I try. And God is so good. You can see some of my pictures on this website. There should be some photos somewhere. And I look forward to continuing this ministry as long as God gives me opportunity. Don't argue with him. When God lays something on your heart, know that he doesn't necessarily call the equipped. He says he'll equip the called. And I'm a testimony to that. God bless you.